Hi everyone, it's 1 o'clock on Wednesday, our hashtag Wellness Wednesday contribution to the world. I will wait a little bit per usual to give everyone a chance to log on. And you'll see me like looking around trying to figure out what to do. And for those of you who are on, just to make a quick admin note, that these videos are live. We'll do weekly 1 o'clock on Wednesdays ET, and they're always available on our webpage. Our webpage. Oh my God, that's so old school. On the Facebook, on our Facebook page, so you can share them or review them, get more information that you didn't catch while we were live. So they're always there for you like a little library. Okay, well, let's get started. Hi, April. I love how you always say hello when you join. Let's get started. What I wanted to start with was there's an email that went out yesterday to announce our Facebook Live today, and the title was Heavy Days. And I wanted to just take a moment to acknowledge what we're all going through in the world around us, contributing to real heavy days. And I know it's a very complex topic, and many ideas and feelings and actions are yet unformed, and it can just weigh heavily, and that's how I feel. And to be honest, I feel like maybe a conversation like this is a bit superfluous given what's going on, and feel like maybe we should talk about more important things. But all of this, all these dynamics to me resonate in a place of self-awareness, what we're doing, how we think, how we behave, how we get more and more aware of patterns of behavior and so forth. And that aspect of self-awareness, I think it all behooves us to become more and more self-aware of our bodies, what our bodies do for us, and on top of that, how we think, how we behave in society, how we relate. But coming to that other point of physicality, this self-awareness is still important. And that's why I'm here today, to go through some of this with you and share this with you. One of the reasons I started Mighty and wanting to modernize menopause is because I was having crazy periods. And I will share with the world, with you right now, that I literally bled, actually bled for 10 weeks straight. And that seems unfathomable to most people, and you couldn't even imagine the gynecologist as I went to see about it. Finally, I asked her if she'd ever experienced this with her own patients, and she said that none of her patients could tolerate even bleeding for more than 2 weeks. So she'd never seen anyone suffer that long, to be honest. From my perspective, it was a little bit of an experiment to see what was going on. But that really informed a lot of my motivation to research and information that I've gathered and what I want to share with you today. So that's my personal experience, rooted in research and clinical studies and understanding how mechanisms of hormones work. And I want to share that. This is not going to be providing medical advice. I want to give you basic information around hormones and how they can cause heavy periods, particularly in early perimenopause. So that's kind of the framework. So if you've listened to the other one, we did another Facebook Live with Perimenopause 101. The real piece of information that's so important that isn't really emphasized is that in early perimenopause, the hormonal profile is very different than postmenopause. And right now, we lack the sophistication around what menopause really is, and we really just focus on postmenopause. And just to orient everyone, postmenopause is when the ovarian function has ceased, the ovaries are no longer producing estrogen, and a woman's body is post-reproductive phase in its new normal. And a lot of the remedies and conversation around menopause is around postmenopause and the fact that women no longer produce estrogen. and that is a valid conversation to have, but doesn't apply to the full experience and the multi-year transition of menopause. So starting with perimenopause, which is the first phase, we can break it down really into two different sections: early perimenopause and later perimenopause. It's very kind of sophisticated, isn't it? And the way that I like to distinguish it is that at some point, so if you're moving towards a phase where you're not having periods, at some point your periods will start to spread out and then not exist anymore. And then that's kind of, in my view, the later part of perimenopause, where things are like, okay, we're riding this roller coaster down, and then periods are getting wider apart, ovarians are like emptier and emptier, and less periods. What happens in early perimenopause is that periods go haywire. Estrogen is actually on average higher than they were in reproductive years or even in puberty. So this experience of perimenopause hormonally that hasn't really been talked about and gets glossed over in the idea that all women are different, and periods are going to change, and maybe they're shorter, maybe they're longer, maybe they're heavier, like who knows, like this kind of bullshit. But the research shows in meta-analysis around perimenopause that in early perimenopause, estrogen is really high, and it's also super volatile. And that's one of the things that drives heavy periods. So a little bit of hormones 101. So we know from menstruating all our lives, all our adult lives, that the first phase of the cycle is when our bodies produce estrogen, and estrogen is responsible for, among other things, responsible for building the endometrial lining. So getting the blood into the uterine lining, that's what estrogen does. So logically, if there's a lot more estrogen, then there will be a lot more lining. And so that is a very logical step to understand why in perimenopause, women will experience heavy bleeding. So I'll pause here and just give a little qualifier that heavy bleeding can also be caused by endometriosis, cysts, and fibroids, and other more rare conditions. So this conversation does not necessarily apply to those things. I'm talking about specifically around hormonal change in perimenopause. So just to clarify that. So in our bodies, experiencing ups and downs in estrogen, right, causing heavy periods. And for those of you who are experiencing it, like, I hear you, sister, like, this is no joke. In a meeting, walking down the street, I said to my boyfriend, God bless him, it's like, and my girlfriends, like, I'm 50 years old and I'm still leaking into my bed sheets. Like, how many times do I have to like hand wash my bed sheets? It's just brutal. So there are ways to mitigate it. And my orientation around this is, okay, so understand what's causing it, and then understand what we can do to intervene to that. And the way I look at estrogen production is your body is going through major change right now, and it's kind of going to do what it's going to do. And our endocrine system, to a large degree, is not influenceable by us mentally, or we can't like force our estrogen to be lower or smoother. So the way I look at high estrogen is that you need to get rid of it, right? Because the estrogen is being produced in a time of turmoil in your body, and it needs to get out of the bloodstream so it doesn't cause endometrial lining buildup. And there's a way to do it kind of dietarily, and then there's a way to do it with supplements. And I'll talk about hormone replacement as another option. So hormones going haywire. There's strong research around cruciferous vegetables, broccoli, kale, Brussels sprouts, and the like, that have a phytochemical that helps the body metabolize estrogen. It's called I3C. That one has very strong clinical evidence that it works. The metabolite of IC3 is DIM. This one also has evidence that it helps metabolize estrogen. Now, the kind of irony of this whole thing is that IC3 and DIM got popularized by male weightlifters because they were trying to get rid of estrogen so that their inherent testosterone would have more of an impact, right? Because you think estrogen and progesterone kind of balance each other out. So if you drop the estrogen out of a male body, they have much more testosterone and greater ability, therefore, to build muscle. And so this is useful for us in perimenopause because by eating kale and Brussels sprouts, like that will naturally help your body metabolize estrogen. You can get DIM and I3C in supplement form, and it is also, of course, in our formula 4-5 for perimenopause because this is a key aspect of the hormonal profile at perimenopause. So 1, get rid of the estrogen. 2 is thinking about how the body gets rid of estrogen. Is your liver healthy? It is the processing center, the detox center, and a healthy liver makes sure that things are getting flushed out. So the herb that's the most well known for tonifying liver function is milk thistle. It is broadly, again, the clinical evidence is very strong that it supports healthy liver function. And milk thistle is readily available, so consider that too when you're looking at how to deal with excess estrogen. And you think about the other thing was looking at synthetic hormones or hormone replacement. Oftentimes with heavy bleeding, women will be prescribed progestin, which is a synthetic form of progesterone. And progesterone balances out the effects of estrogen. We know that they are really in interplay during a menstrual cycle, and they have a very complex relationship, or they just have a relationship. I don't know how complex it is. So the relationship is that when estrogen is building up and then you ovulate, progesterone then starts to build. And it's building to prepare the endometrial lining for pregnancy and implantation. And it's also then regulating the cycle end if in fact the embryo doesn't implant. So it has this effect at the end. And they're adding progesterone because it impacts ovulation. It kind of suppresses the effect of estrogen because again, they're in a kind of ratio relationship. So progesterone is also very important. And synthetic, and based on my 10 weeks of bleeding, my gynecologist gave me a little bit of progesterone, synthetic progesterone, that I took it and it kind of balanced it out. So there is some benefit to understanding how that can help. A nerve that actually helps promote progesterone production is, hi Chris, is chasteberry. So that is known to affect progesterone levels, which then helps find balance. So if you're taking DIM and IC3 to reduce estrogen, you've got chasteberry that lifts progesterone, so you're coming into closer balance, which is really what we're looking for. So that's the background information. And in my view, plant remedies are a great way to deal with what's happening without a lot of kind of risk to the system. Like exposing yourself to estrogen and excess or synthetic estrogens has its risks. So what I want to do next is just talk about how to deal, because frankly, it's a pain in the ass. And April, you mentioned, like, what about period underwear? So from my own experience and what I know from talking to so many women on the topic, is that it's so hard to manage. It's disruptive, it's unpredictable, and frankly, it's literally a lot. So women tell me, they're in a little middle of a meeting and all of a sudden you just feel it, right? They call it flooding for a reason. It's just the most literal description we could have. And these are my tips. So one is you do things to manage hormone levels naturally. Of course, that's kind of my shtick. The other is lifestyle. So as I understand it from different gynecologists, that they see women presenting with more extreme menopause-related symptoms when a lot of other things are out of balance. So they're overweight, they have high cholesterol, there's a lot of stress, not eating well, digestion is poor. So trying to clean that up will also start to help balance out the endocrine system and letting it do what they want, what it needs to do, not what it wants. And so one is taking DIM IC3 to make sure that's not happening. But in the reality of when you're out in public or just sleeping, trying to deal with all this bleeding, I recommend 100% period underwear. And April, you asked about it. And there's a couple different companies and a couple different ways to go, how they've designed it. And I'm not going to get into that so much. But period underwear is a godsend because it's basically underwear that's going to soak up anything that leaks out. And it is, I wear it to sleep. I've worn it during the day. I've even worn it like with a pad over the gusset of the underwear, like with my menstrual cup. So there's a lot of layers. So one is layering. So we talk about layering. It's great for hiking and camping and so forth. Layering is also great for managing heavy periods. I much prefer using a menstrual cup than tampons. I've been using menstrual cups for more than 12 years now. And that's great, April. April just asked, like, well, what's the deal with the menstrual cup? So let me go into some very specific details about the cup. So the menstrual cup is like a silicone, it's just like a cup and it's foldable and you put it into your vagina. And first thing is you have to be very comfortable putting your fingers in your own vagina. Like, let's just call it like it is. Because you have to like stick it in there. You kind of fold it in half and you put it in and then it'll slide into a place where you feel it kind of pops into place. It takes a bit of practice and look, for most cases, no one's looking at you, so you just kind of figure it out and you get it in there. The next step is like, how do you get it out? Because I'm thinking, like, the first time I was like, how the hell do you get it out? And what you do is you kind of bear down a little bit, like you're pooing or peeing, and you can feel it kind of push out. And then you grab it and then you pour it out. The other thing that people, friends have just randomly asked me about menstrual cups is, I'm wearing a menstrual cup, but I'm in a public toilet, like you can't wash your hands, but at home you can like empty your cup and wash your hands and then put it back in. Like, great. What do you do when you're in a public restroom? What I do is I make sure I have just a bottle of water. And so when I take it out, I just rinse it kind of in the toilet bowl between my legs and then put it back in. So that's how I do it. I also find it very useful because you can see the color, the consistency of the blood. You can see clots in the cup. And as much as we've been trained over our adult lives to not see it by using tampons and not understanding what's going on there, this is illuminating. It can be such also an indicator of health. Anyway, you can at least check volume when you use a menstrual cup regularly, so you know how much is coming and when. Really love it. Chris, yeah, what brand? The brand that I like that I bought the first one and I've used it consistently is called Thinx, Thinx. I have tried a couple other brands that are not so great, but I've used them more for like incontinence and not, or like discharge, I'll just say discharge, and not for period underwear. So there's a whole bunch of them out there, but I really like Thinx. One thing to consider about period underwear is, so if you think it's the front and it goes around the back, that some underwears only go like underneath, and some underwears literally go from waistband, like where almost your belly button is, underneath you and all the way up your butt crack. And in my personal opinion, so much better. Like, it just gives you so much more confidence. Oh, and Chris, I'd say that Thinx also has like a teen brand that might be great for your daughter too. Okay, so I don't know I would love to open it up to anyone listening if they had other things that they had done they're doing to manage heavy bleeding. It was challenging also from another perspective, being in a relationship, about having sex and trying to find patience around that, or comfort in having like period sex. Like, that's whole and maybe an entirely different conversation. But heavy bleeding, in my view, is no joke. It is an indicator that we need to learn, we need to pay attention to, so we understand what's going on underneath. In my view, heavy periods are something that you need to manage mostly, because at some point these crazy periods are going to like fade away, and they will get less and less crazy over time until you don't have them anymore, in general broad strokes. So here it's really just about dealing, and it would be great to hear if anyone has any other ways they deal. One of my recommendations to do, which I also did, I had like a little sack, and then, we all have these little pouches, makeup pouches and stuff, and I would put an extra underwear, just like regular underwear, in a small Ziploc bag. And then I would have a couple tampons just in case, a couple pads, and carry that around with me. But the plastic bag inside my little makeup pouch is because if I need to change my underwear because I bled through it, then I have a plastic bag to put it in. I know it's kind of gross to think like you're carrying around like dirty period underwear, but like sometimes like you literally bleed through in like a public place, and like what are you gonna do? So those are my suggestions. Period underwear is great. If you can get comfortable with a menstrual cup, like 100% please use them. It's also great for the environment, but it gets you so much more in tune to your bodies. And I think particularly as older women who have not been so attuned to our bodies, it is on us now to really take that as a priority. And then take your little kit with you, and then I hope all is well. So on that, it's been just about 20 minutes. I don't want to take too much more of your time. Again, this will be posted on our video kind of library, so you can access it or send it to any friends that might also be interested in learning more about heavy bleeding and how to deal. Next week, I'm not sure what I'm going to talk about next week. I might talk about feminism and how it's important for us women to not only think about women, but think about what we do as women and all the different women of color and how important it is, particularly as women who are becoming more and more wise and more empowered as women, as older women in society. So with that, I'll sign off. Thank you everyone for joining. I'm really happy to see more and more people every week. And please take good care. Bye-bye.